Om Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sada Shivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Okay, one second. I'm just okay. So today we're going to look at something special. This is a work by Adi Shankaracharya. It's called as Ekashloki. So Ekashloki, just by the name itself, itself indicates it is one verse, one shloka. Like that, there are different works are there. Panchashloki. Then there is Dashashloki. So like that, many are there, depending on the how many verses are there in the treatise. So this interestingly, this one verse is also called as a prakaranam. It's called Ekashloki Prakaranam. The meaning of the prakaranam is specific. It says there is a definition in Sanskritam, Shastraika Desha Sambaddham Shastra Karantare Sthitam Ahuhu Prakaranam Nama Grantha Bedam Vipaschitaha. So the people who know, they call something as a prakaranam when it is Shastraika Desha Sambandham. It has some connection with the Shastra, which has some connection with the scripture. In other words, there is something that is said there, something special that is highlighted. Not everything that is said in the scripture, but one particular aspect is taken and highlighted in the work. And not only that, it is not so Shastra Karantare Sthitam. It is not something which is a direct explanation of the scriptural words of the scripture. In other words, it is not like a bhashyam. It's not like Shankara Bhashyam. It is an independent work written by him, but at the same time connected to something specific that is said in the scripture, he said. And so it occupies like an important place, almost like a scripture because of the message. Like that, Adi Shankaracharya wrote, there are many prakaranams are there. So he wrote things like Panchadashi. No, the prakaranams are like Panchadashi, Anubhuti Prakasha, then Yoga Vasishta. These are all considered as prakaranam. So as opposed to say Upanishad, which is directly, a part of the Veda, or other scriptural works, that we have, like Bhagavad Gita, so which is part of Itihasas. Then he wrote also things like Upadesha Sahasri, which is composed of 1000 verses. He wrote Shatashloki, composed of 100 verses. He wrote Dashashloki, composed of 10 verses. And then he wrote Ekashloki, composed of 1 verse. So it reveals, to maintain, to have the capacity to communicate in brief and also elaborate upon something, and not elaborate like many people elaborate. They go all over the place, maintaining the thoroughness without any superfluous words, or subject matter or topics, sticking to what is to be said, maintaining the depth is not an easy thing to do in a very elaborate way and also in a very, very cryptic, brief way. He's even conveyed the message of the scripture in half a verse, Ardhashlokena pravakshyami yaduktam grantha kotibihi brahma satyam jaganmithya jivo brahmaiva naparaha. So he can do it in half a verse, he can do it in one verse, he can do it in 1,000 verses. That is the greatness of our teachers that have gone before us and given us what they've given us. So thus it is called as a Ekashloki Prakaranam. It's in the form of a verse. And being in the form of a verse, it has a meter. You know. And the name of this particular meter is called as Shardula Vikridita meter. It is a meter that is made up of 19 syllables to one padam. A padam is a quarter, 1/4 of the verse. So, 1/4 of the verse, each quarter is made up of 19 syllables. We'll see that. So let me begin by first reciting the verse and then looking at it. Kim jyotistava bhanumanah ratrau pradipadikam syadevam ravideepa darshana vidhau kim jyotirakyahi me chakshustasya nimilanadi samaye kim dhiyo darshane kim tatrahamato bhavan paramakam jyotis tadasmi prabho. Okay. So each quarter is 19. Kim jyotis tava bhanumanahani me ratrau pradipadikam. 19. Syadevam ravi deepadarshana vidhau kim jyotirakyahi me chakshustasya nimilanadi samaye kim dhiyo darshane kim tasyahamato bhavan paramakam jyotis tadasmi prabho. 19 in each. And each padam, each syllable it's either a vowel or it's a consonant in combination with a vowel. Yeah, that is what a syllable is. So thus it perfectly fits into a verse with a particular meter. And not only that, it encapsulates, is said in the beginning, connected to Shastram. What about Shastram is this particular verse connected to? It is specifically connected to one particular section in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad called as Jyotir Brahmana section. It's in the 4th chapter, 3rd Brahmana of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where it is in the form of a dialogue between King Janaka and Yajnavalkya. So Janaka asks Yajnavalkya, Kim Jyotirayam Purushaha. So what is it? What is that Jyoti? Jyoti is that light that enlivens a person, that makes a person do things, that makes the person live, that makes a person active, that makes a person aware of the world, aware of himself. What makes this world appear as it appears to us? And what is that light that makes it all possible is the question. And then he goes on in the form of a dialogue. So there is a whole section where he describes the nature of Atma, the nature of the self, and also its connection to Parameshwara, to Paramatma. So here, if you just look at it, our life, I'm born as an individual, I'm born as a jiva, and into this world, and I interact with this world. That is what life is about. I live interacting with this infinite universe made up of inert objects, made up of living beings, all kinds of living beings. What is the purpose? Is there a purpose to all of this? Or is it just an exercise, coming from nowhere and going into an oblivion, going into nowhere, after a couple of generations, unremembered, unknown, unheard by anybody, not even in their mind existing, Is that the lot of a jiva? Or is there something else in it, Are we meant to undergo pain and suffering and struggles in life, with moments of sorrow mostly and difficulties, and few moments interspersed with joy, joyful experiences, and state of mind? And then how do we end up, Are we meant to end up, as some people say? So everything is all about the hereafter, You go through this life suffering and struggling and in pain and afraid all the time, even having the fear of God or having a fear of something worse, the devil. For to what end? For a promise hereafter, that is going to occur in the hereafter. So I live for that promise. I don't know, unverifiable. Is this what life is about, Or is it about something else? Does it have a purpose? Does it have a meaning? Is it something that is achievable by me in this life itself, which perhaps that achievement continues on in the hereafter? Will Bhagavan make this world in such a way and the jiva that I suffer and suffer for an unknown end hereafter? Or did he make it as though as something I get, something which is special, which is purposeful, and which perhaps continues in the hereafter, but finds fulfillment in the life itself? How do our scriptures address this? What do they have to say to us about this? Is something to look at, is what we look at. So if you look at our tradition, our scriptures, this is how they present the whole problem or the life of a human being, of a jiva. So, as we all know, categorizes one's search, one's seeking in life into certain categories, four categories called as purusharthas. We do things in life for different purposes, and then of which identifies the fourth one as the moksha purushartha, parama purushartha, as an end, which is an end that leads to a fulfillment, fulfillment of life itself, not fulfillment in terms of different things in life. Our life is full of battles. We are always fighting. We are fighting enemies outside. We are fighting enemies within. We are even fighting our own friends outside and within. So, is this a life full of battles? And at the end of all the battles, what do I get? Do I win the war? Or do I live a life of battles with losing the war every time? As a jiva, I fight many battles, but I don't win the war because, according to us, we continue. The jiva continues as a jiva. Nothing much changes. Karma continues. This is what is called as samsara, a samsara chakram, So, what is the way out for this? And Shastram presents the way out for this as what is called as moksha. So, of all the purusharthas, of all the battles that I fight in life, there is one in which I have to end it, which leads in a success, not of battles. I can win battles, I can lose battles, but I have to win the war. This is the war of ignorance, against the enemy of ignorance in the form of self ignorance. So he says, Shastram talks about this end as something which is achievable in life in terms of self knowledge, in terms of self recognition, in terms of what they call Atma Jnanam, knowledge of oneself and knowledge of one's oneness and identity with Paramatma, with Parameshwara, with the Lord, the source of everything, including us. So, with this as a little background, let's get to this verse. What is it that is said in this verse? Is one thing interesting to know, important to know. In order to understand any words of the scripture, the verses, of course, it's in Sanskritam language, there are certain things that are important to know in interpreting and also in explaining a verse. How do I understand this verse? Very interesting verse, So there are certain aspects of grammar that are important to know, okay, in order to understand how this verse is, what the verse has to say and how it says it. It talks about 5 factors. Padachedaha padarthoktihi vigraho vakya yojana akshepascha samadhanam etad vyakhyanam panchakam. Fivefold things are there that one needs to know. How do I interpret this verse? Is it enough just to know the language, the meaning, the word meaning, dictionary? This is what people sometimes think. They think you take something in Sanskrit, just go to Google, put it a dictionary there, try to figure out the words and translations. You see, is this the way it is done? No. What are these fivefold? He says one is knowing something, knowing how to break the words. Kim jyotistava, jyotistava. This word breaks into, it's called sandhi, because in Sanskrit language, words are combined. I have to know where to break the words. If I break them in the wrong place, then I don't get the proper word, or even if I get the word, I may not get the proper meaning. I'll get the wrong ending. So then there is then meaning, the meaning obviously, the artha, shabdartham, padartham, padartham. So what is the meaning, direct meaning of the word? Is the direct meaning applicable? If it's not applicable, is there an implied meaning? So what is not only the meaning, but also what kind of word is it? What case is it? What gender is it? All these things I have to know. Like what vibhakti, I have to know the cases. Like ahani, bhanuman ahani me, ahani is locative case. Then I have to know what I call as compounds. Sometimes words are strung together and they have to be not only broken like a sandhi, but you have to look the internal connection between different parts of the word, of the big word. So it is made up of many elements. Ravi Deepa Darshana Vidhau. So there are many words in this, and how each one is connected to each other in the form of a syntax, the syntactical meaning. So Vakya Yojana. And then he also talks about what is called as Akshepa Samadhanam, which is so a particular way of structuring it in the form of a, a conversation, in the form of a dialogue, perhaps an explanation and a counter explanation, or a question and an answer. So all of these have to be known how to uh, open it up, the meaning of the words. We will look at this. Very, very interesting. Not only that, then there is a particular form of logic involved in this particular verse to explain the meaning, called Nyaya, called Shakha Chandra Nyaya or Sthula Rundati Nyaya. So there you start from one point and he leads the student from point to point to point and gets him to a point where so you have to then take the leap and get to know what is being said. So it's a progression of question and answer called Shaka Chandra Nyaya. So let us look at this. Okay. So here there is a student. Remember the context of Janaka and Yajnavalkya. Similar to this, he says, it's a context, a conversation between a student and a teacher, or a teacher and a student. A student here wants to know what is the cause behind all of this, behind me, behind my life, behind this world, behind all that is going on, behind my struggles and so on. What is it that drives it, the driving factor? And the teacher wants to unfold to him the nature of Atma. And so he starts with a question. There are 6 questions in this one verse, and questions and answers also. So, Kim Jyotis Tava. Question number 1. Kim Jyotis Tava. What is that light which lights up your world? He asked the student. What is it that makes the world available to you? What is the world that makes the world evident to you? Our whole experience is about recognizing things in this world, experiencing them, relating to them. Okay. And so things become evident to me. Objects are there around me, people are there around me. What makes things evident to me? Without which nothing will be there. Nothing. What is it? Kim Jyotis Tava. For you as an individual, what is your Jyoti? What is the light that makes you function, cognize, interact with the world? Bhanuman Hanime. Bhanuman. Answer. Student answers. Guru, Bhanuman Ahanime. In the daytime, he thinks, at night I don't see anything. The world is not evident to me. But in the daytime, everything becomes evident to me. So I see the world around me and everything is awake. Things wake, they become alive. I become alive. I am awake. I interact with the world. So my whole interaction that is talked about is during the daytime. Nighttime, I don't know anything. Nothing is evident to me. So in Ahani is day, or Ahani can be both day and night also. But here in this context, daytime. It is Bhanuman. Who's Bhanuman? What is Bhanuman? Bhanu is that which is bright, that which shines, that which lights up. Surya is called Bhanu or Bhanuman. Bhanuman. So the one that gives light in for us, Bhanu Vasaraha. So we have this Bhanu Varaha, Sunday. Sunday is called even Sundays. For us, the week begins with a Sunday. So Bhanu, first Surya Devata is invoked in the Navagrahas. Then we have Somavara. Then we have Chandra, Soma. Then we have Mangala, Kuja, Agni. Okay, represents Agni. So then we have the rest of the week. Okay. So for us, Sunday is the first day of the week. Bhanu, he is Bhanu. He is at the center of the Graha Devatas. Not only Bhanu, incidentally, one of Sri Krishna's sons, no, not one of his sons, all his sons with Satyabhama, their names began with Bhanu. One of his name was Bhanuman. So it's interesting. So anyway, that's by the way. So this is what it is. Ahani me Bhanuman. Me Jyoti. Ahani me. Me means mama for me. He says. Okay. He sees, Guru sees where the student's mind is going now. So he asks him the second question. Ratrau. That's all. Ratrau. So what implied here? Ratrau kim tava jyoti. That's implied in parenthesis. But Ratrau, what about the night? What about the, you say there is a light in the daytime. What about the night? Are you not aware of things at night? In the night, what is it that makes you aware of the world, conscious of the world, interact with the world? Ratrau, when the sun sets, or even sometimes he says, what happens? Ratrau pradipadikam. Answer. Ratrau, it is Pradeepadikam. Pradeepam. Things like, so things that, other things that light up, give me light, like the moon, Chandra, or the fire. Here is included. Fire also you can include. So anything that is a luminary, he says. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, similar line of dialogue goes on. There he says it is. So Chandrama eva asya jyotihi bhavati. Agnireva asya jyotihi bhavati. Like that it goes. So here he says Pradeepadikam. The sun, the moon, the stars, the fire, all of these give me light. So the teacher looks at him. Yeah, it's true. But then he also sees the student. So he's focusing on these external sources of light, the physical sources of light that, of course, make the world evident to him. But then he wants to shift his thinking a little bit. He wants to redirect his thinking. So he says, one padam is over. Syadevam, question number 3. Syadevam Ravideepa Darshana Vidhau Kim Jyotirakya me. Syadevam. Let it be so. Let it be so. This is not the main thing here. Of course, there are external sources of light that makes everything evident to us. But there is something beyond that. Think outside the box. Syadev, Ravi Deepa Darshana Vidau Kim Jyotihi. In the absence of the sun, in the absence of the moon and all the luminaries, then what is it that makes you see things, that makes it evident to you? The sun lights up the tree. The sun lights up the house, the sun lights up the car, the sun lights up the people, no doubt. But then, so for you, what is it that makes both the sun and the tree available? So you are the one, there is something in you that makes it evident to you. Syadevam, when these things are not there, when they are absent, then how do you function? So he thinks, Chakshuhu, eyes. So he says, oh no, it's me. It is my eyes that make everything see. The sun may be there. The sun may be lighting up the whole world. The moon lights up the world. The Agni lights up the world. But then for me, if my eyes don't see, what will be there? Eyes here is upalakshanam. It includes the other senses also. Whatever applies to eye applies to other things. Okay. That is what is called upalakshan. So here, eyes, ears, nose, all the sense organs, okay, because of which the world becomes evident to me. So this is my Jyoti. This is my source of light that makes the world evident to me. If this is not there, if my senses are not active, then the world doesn't exist. Then the world doesn't exist. So thus he says, Chakshuhu Ke Neshitam Patati. Kenopanishad also. Ke Neshitam Patati Preshitam Manaha. Ke Naf Pranav Prathamaf Praiti Yuktaha. Ke Neshitam Vacham Imam Vadanti. Chakshushrotram Kaudevo Vunakti. Yunakti. What is it then that makes all these eyes and so on operate? That is it that makes them function. What is it that makes your senses function? There is a sense organ behind this sense. There's a physical organ, but there is a sense, the capacity to know. the sense of sight, and so on. So he says, okay, you say eyes and others, tasya nimilanadi samaye kim. Close your eyes. When you close your eyes, are you not aware of the world? Or when you're daydreaming, when you're daydreaming, when you're dreaming, night dreaming, are you not aware there is another world? You're interacting, you're an individual, you're a dreamer, you're interacting with the dream world. Activities are going on as a jiva. A third of your life is like that, you know. So that is also functioning. Here he says, Nimila Nadi Samaye Kim Jyotihi. What is the light that makes you see things, recognize things, even when this sense organs are not fully operating, he says. What is the light by which you close your eyes and you know? So then he says, Dhihi. What is the eye of the eye? Shrotasya shrotram, manaso mano yad vacho havacham sau pranasya pranaha. Chakshusas chakshu ati muchya dhiraha. What is the eye of the eye? What is the ear of the ear? What is the smell behind the sense of smell? All these things. Is there such a thing? Kim, question number 4. So he says, Dhihi, Dhihi, answer. Dhihi mama jyotihi, my buddhi. Buddhi is my thoughts. What I call as buddhi vrittis, you know. A vritti is a thought form associated with something, associated with an object. When I close my eyes or when I keep open my eyes and I'm daydreaming, I'm daydreaming. I'm not aware of the world. I'm not aware of what's happening around me, but I'm aware of another world. And that is a world of my thoughts, made up of what are called as samskaras, my experiences of the world outside. Or when I'm in dream state, the samskaras again, I cognize, I experience, I manifest. These are all called vrittis, thought forms. So in the inside called buddhi vrittis, he says it is the buddhi vrittis that make everything available to me, you know, whether it is outside or within me, whether it is when I'm awake or whether when I'm dreaming. So when my senses are not operating, in fact, even when my senses are operating, it is really the buddhi vrittis alone because of which this world is available to me. So buddhi vrittis are the thing, he says. They are the thing. So here, so buddhi vrittis, they are like the light. They are my real light. They illumine my waking world, external world, my internal world, my dream world. They illumine everything. Okay. Then Guruji asks question number 5. Dhiyo darshane. These vrittis that you talk about, don't you recognize them? Don't you cognize them? So these vrittis, thought forms by which you see things outside, by which you know, are they not known by you? Do they recognize themselves? You know, when I know something, I know a pot, I see a pot, I perceive a pot, say. And in this pot, whether it is outside, there is a pot, and there is a corresponding vritti, thought form in my mind, in my buddhi, called as ghata vritti. This thought form, which is the form of a pot associated with the name, is a ghata vritti, is there. Even if I close my eyes, there is a ghata vritti. I think of a pot, and then there is a ghata vritti. There is a pot that I'm aware of. So this particular vritti, so I'm aware of I cognize a pot, but I also know that I am cognizing a pot. There's a knower. So there is a knower of the pot, and then there is the pot that is known, the known pot and the knower pot. These two things, is it the same vritti that knows the pot and knows itself? Like they say here, in psychology sometimes, there is a cognizing self and there is a cognized. Both are vritti, ghada vritti, the same vritti. Which, is it self-luminant? That means, is the vritti self-luminant? In other words, a buddhi vritti, because of which I recognize a pot and then recognizes itself. That means, is it self-luminant and illumines the pot, both at the same time? Or it only illumines the pot and you recognize it? So this question he asks. So here, Kim Darshane, you are cognizing the buddhi vritti, which means there is something else that cognizes the buddhi vritti in the form of awareness. So here one student, perhaps somebody else standing there, or this student has a question, or whatever it may be. He says, no, this buddhi vritti also is self-luminant. It is the vritti, it is the buddhi vritti that is behind everything. Plus it is self-luminant. For such a person, if this is the thinking, then the teacher can ask a sixth question. The sixth question he can ask because of the grammar here. Those who know Sanskrit. So he says, Dhiyo Darshane. Dhiyo Darshane. In Sanskritam, the way it's written, this could mean Dhiyo Darshane. It could also mean Dhiyo Adarshane. Because, so in this Sandhi, the A drops. When O is followed by A, the A drops. That's the rule, grammar rule. So the question can be Dhiyo Darshane, or the question can be taken as Dhiyo Adarshane. Okay. So when the student is thinking in terms of the buddhi vrittis, lighting up the world outside, teacher asks, Dhiyo Darshane Kim Jyotihi. If the student says, no, I think the buddhi vritti is self-luminant, then he will ask, Dhiyo Adarshane Kim. What happens when you don't have the buddhi vritti? There is no ghata jnanam. There is no knowledge of I know the pot. Or between two vrittis, there is no vritti. So, dhihi adarshane kim. How do you know that there is an absence of vritti is also recognized by you? If buddhi vritti is the one that is self-luminant and illumines everything else, then what is it that makes you recognize the absence of the vritti? Which means there is something else. Dhiyo adarshane kim. In sleep, deep sleep, there are no buddhi vrittis, like they are in dream, like they are in waking. But I know when I wake up, I recall, I say I had good sleep, I recognize some kind of ajnanam there, where there was nothing there. Aham kimapi na janami. I did not experience anything. I did not see anything. I did not recognize anything. So he thinks now. Dhiyo darshane. He says, Tatra aham. Answers. Tatra, there, in that state, aham, aham jyoti. Finally, he says, there I am the jyoti. I am the light. I here is the Atma. Aham is Atma. So I am the light that lights up the buddhi vrittis, that lights up the senses, that lights up everything else. And when it comes to the world, it lights up the sun, which lights up the world, or the moon that lights up the world. So he says, Tatra aham, I the subject, and that has to be, that is self-shining. You know, that is the Swayam Jyotihi, what is called as the Swayam Jyotihi. So therefore, the eyes is not the eyes and the senses. Even when the eyes don't function, I know that I am. My existence is never a question for me. What I am is the question, but not my existence, not my being. Nobody has to tell me that I am there. You know. Same thing with the vrittis, buddhi vrittis also. Whether they are there. So sometimes people think, oh, it's the vrittis, the thoughts that make me everything possible. That are also all the problems. And to get to myself, I need to get rid of the thoughts. Wipe them away. So wipe them away, then what happens? I become manifest. Not when thoughts are gone, I am manifest. I am always manifest. When there are thoughts, when there are no thoughts. Somebody says, I think, therefore I am there. I think, therefore I am there. I am there, therefore I think. I am, therefore I think. Not I think, therefore I am. What when I don't think? Am I not there? Between my thoughts, am I not there? I am there. Neither perception nor inference. Inferences of my made up by my thoughts. None of them. They all don't reveal me. So vrittis don't reveal me because they are not self-revealing. They reveal other things outside of me. What is it that reveals me to myself? Is self-revealing. Atma reveals itself. Okay. Atma reveals itself. Not by knocking on the door and saying, who's there? You know, knock, knock. Something knocks in my head. I say, who's there? And Atma says, Atma. Then I say, Atma who? It's not like that. Self-revealing means it is self-luminant. It doesn't require anything else for it to be recognized. So tatra aham jyotihi. Shishya says, so teacher now knows he's gotten something here. There's another thing that is very important, you know. Then that the teacher tells him. And this is what he gives him. A Mahavakya Upadesha. Mahavakya Upadesha. So you all heard of Mahavakyas. These are special, these are sentences or phrases of few words like Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, Prajnanam Brahma. These are all the well-known Mahavakyas that reveal something very important. They reveal a connection between this this Atma, the self, in the form of self-revealing awareness, consciousness, the Jivatma in reference to the Jiva, and equates it to Paramatma, the one who's the cause of everything, who's Ishvara for us, who we call Ishvara, from which everything is manifest, in which everything is sustained, into which everything is resolved, that which is the source of all. Okay. That Bhagavan, that Lord, is not something separate and outside of myself, or I am not something separate and outside of Bhagavan. So he says, Ataf Bhavan Paramakam Jyotihi. He says, Ataha, therefore know this. Know this. What? Bhavan. Bhavan is you. You, Tvam. Bhavan. Tat. Tat Jyotihi. Tat Atma, he says. Aham Jyotihi, he says. Therefore, he says, Atav Bhavan, Tat Param, Tat Jyoti that you say you are, that lights up everything, is not something that is separate. From what? Paramakam Jyoti. That Jyoti, that Atma Jyoti, is the same as Param Jyoti. That which is limitless. That which transcends everything. That which transcends the elements. Ka is elements, in Vedic language. So that which is Atah Bhavan Tvam Tat Param Akam Jyotihi Asi, that you are. That's the way of saying Tattvam Asi, okay, which is one of the Mahavakyas. This Jyoti within you, there is nothing that is outside of it. Everything is contained in it, That Antar Jyoti, Bahir Jyoti, he says. Antar Jyoti, Bahir Jyoti, Pratyak Jyoti, Parat Paraha. Jyoti, Jyoti, Aham Jyoti, Atma Jyoti, Shivosmiham. This Jyoti that is inside, called Antar Jyoti. Bahir Jyoti, there is outside. What about outside me? Is there Jyoti? What is the Jyoti outside? This consciousness, is it in me or is it outside me? Oh, it is in me. And then what about the outside? No, outside is, outside. There's no Jyoti there. But where does all this exist? It is not that consciousness is in me. Is consciousness is in me? In where? In the vrittis, in the senses, in the body? Where in the body? Or is my body in consciousness? Am I aware of the body or is the body aware of me? The body is in my consciousness, my thoughts are in my consciousness, my senses are in my consciousness, everything is in my consciousness. Antar Jyoti Bahi, there is no Bahihi outside of the Jyoti. Antar Jyoti Bahir Jyoti. Pratyak Jyoti, that the one that is me, the ultimate subject, is in the form of consciousness called Atma. At the same time, it's not bound by space, it's not bound by time. Time and space, all of it exists in my consciousness. And it is Param, that which transcends all. That Atma Jyoti, Shivosmyaham, it is non-separate from Param Jyoti, from Bhagavan. And then He says that Jyoti. Natatra Suryo Bhati. There it is not sun and the moon and all. All of them exist in that Jyoti. Natatra Suryo Bhati Nachandra Tarakam. Nema Vidyuto Bhanti Kutoyam Agni. Tameva Bhantam Anubhati Sarvam. Tasya Bhasa Sarvam Idam Vibhati. Tatra, there in that Jyoti. In fact, sun doesn't light that up. Sun lights up the world outside. It doesn't even light up your thoughts. Tatra Surya na bhati. Then neither moon, night time, all your night things, luminaries. Na Chandra Tarakam, stars. Then Nema Vidyuto Bhanti Kutaha, I am Agnihi. Bhagavan, no, when we do Arati, they shut off the lights. You know, I ever question why they shut off the lights? In fact, they should turn on the lights so everybody can see the Arati. He shuts off the light. It was not for you to see the Arati. It's meant for you to see Bhagavan. So, not with that light, with the tube light. Shuts off all the lights. Then he takes a Jyoti. That is Atma Jyoti. The single Jyoti, he waves it. He shows all over the Murti. But then says this, recites this at the same time. Nema Vidyuto Bhanti Kutoyam Agni. So you are in the form of Param Jyoti. So you are the source of that Atma Jyoti. There is only one Jyoti, really speaking. But then here I am using this little flame to show you, to see you. But the sun cannot, I cannot see you because of the sun. I cannot see you because of the moon. I cannot see you because of all these things. How am I going to see you because of this little light? Tameva bhantam anubhati sarva. Tam, that light, when that, because of that Param Jyoti light, tasya bhasa sarvam idam vibhati. You are that light because of which everything lights up. And so, with that, they see, that's to remind of the source of all light. Remind oneself when we do the arati. So then the Shishya says, Tadasmi Prabhu. He says, Tad Jyotihi. In other words, Tad Jyotihi. Aham Asmi. He Prabhu. He Guru. So he reaffirms. He reaffirms to himself and to the teacher also that Jyoti, that Param Jyoti, is indeed, I'm not separate from that. I'm not distinct from that. I'm not different from that. So he reaffirms the knowledge, like saying, Aham Brahmasmi. Guru says, Tattvamasi. Shishya says, he recognizes it. And then in his mind, that recognition takes place, not in the form of Tattvamasi, but in the form of Aham Brahmasmi. It's the same thing. So many places this is said in many different ways in the scripture. It says, Narayana paro jyotir atma narayana paraha narayana param brahma tattvam narayana paraha narayana paro dhyata dhyanam atma narayana paraha. It says, so Nara, Param Jyoti. So Nara is the Lord. Param Jyoti is the Lord. Narayana is the Param Jyoti. He is Brahma. He is Atma. Atma is now is everything. It's a dhyata, dhyanam, etc. The one who seeks, the one who is the sought. All of that is Narayana alone. This is the essence of the Jyotir Brahmana section of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which so Shankaracharya ji explains in this one verse, of 5 or 6 questions. In that 5 questions, and then there is a hidden sixth question also for another way of thinking. And so it's very, very, very profound verse. So with this, I will stop. We will stop with this. Then we'll see a few questions. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.